Hello, and welcome back to What is Syris reading this week? This is week 18, 19, I believe. I know it's not quite 20. Sorry this wasn't up yesterday. We just had stuff to do yesterday, and I'm filming it today, so here we go. Tuesday's my birthday, so some happy birthdays would be appreciated. If not, that's still cool. Anyways, let's go. First up, we got The Flash, Volume 12. Death and the Speed Force. So this one involves the Black Flash, and he's trying to kill like the maintainer of the Strength Force and maintainer of the Still Force because it's supposedly hurting the Speed Force. So Black Flash is going to try and kill it. Let's see. Is there anything else, or is that just the main plot? Oh, it also sets up for the next one a lot. If you read it, you'll see what happens to it. Because it sets really up for this next story that's happening. So all in all, it's a pretty good story, a little short. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. As I said, this Flash Rebirth run, always pick it up. All right, next up we got Flash, Volume 13, Rogue's Reign. So this is the payoff for the previous setup. So Flash's powers are on the fritz because of Black Flash, quote-unquote, dying, but also the Rogues have taken over, and they're all powered up by Apex Lex. So you got, like, Commander Cole, Captain Cold, but he's stronger now. They just all are stronger. I think Golden Glider can spin a lot faster. Commander Cold gets some of these, like, ice beasts. It's a really fun story to read. And then you got like Kid Flash and what's her face? Avery, the girl that was on the Flash for the Justice League of China. She's there. So they're teaming up trying to take down the Rogues as well, which is also a fun part. So all in all, you got to read it to see how this happens. You can't really describe it. I'm gonna give this one a solid 9 out of 10. It was pretty good. I don't really like the Rogues, but this one was good. Alright, next up for the Flash, we got Flash, Volume 14, The Flash Age. This is a really big one, because I think this was almost the end of the Flash run. I know it's still going on, but this was like kind of like the penultimate thing, or like the end. It contains 88, 750, 751, 752, 753, 754, 755, and annual number 3. So this involves this guy up here, Paradox, because at the end of, I think, Flash War, it showed Paradox escaping from the future. So now he's come back to kill the Flash. For what reason? If you read this, you'll find out. Paradox, he's a new villain. I mean, he's kind of bland, not my personal taste, but the story's pretty decent. It takes Flash to some places you wouldn't think. So all in all, I give the story like a 7 out of 10 maybe, you know. I hope that's not the end. I hope there's more. Alright, next we've got Suicide Squad, Case Files. So if you've seen the new Suicide Squad by James Gunn, you know that it's got obviously like Peacemaker in it and all those characters. It's a really good movie. So this one goes back, it tells the first or significant appearance of a bunch of characters, which is Amanda Waller, Bloodsport, King Shark, Mongal, Peacemaker, Polka Dot Man, The Thinker, and The Weasel. So if you want to learn about these characters, this is a great book. If you already kind of know about them and have no real interest in seeing them again, then I mean, don't pick it up. Just no real reason. But I personally thought it was fun to see how each of these characters started, so I give it a solid 9 out of 10. If you watch the movie and want to learn about the characters, read this. Alright, next up, got Deadpool, The Wedding of Deadpool. So this was part of Jerry Dugan's run, which, as you know, I can't ever stop talking about apparently. And this is where Deadpool gets married, and it contains, like, I think the 700th issue of Deadpool. Is that what it is? I know one of these, like, issue 700, and it contains a bunch of short stories. Yeah. So Deadpool gets married to who you'll have to see, but then the cover here, this cover, it's actually a record winner for the most characters on a single cover. So it deals with like Deadpool, him getting married. One of them is a bunch of short stories about how he's got married in the past. Let's see, then you got where they go honeymooning in Tokyo and some monsters attack. And then Madcap and Deadpool's history together, like how they got fused and separated and fused and But also there's one where Deadpool goes back in time and Hitler gets a time machine and then Hitler goes to kill Nick Fury, but then Deadpool sends a message to Cable, and that's a weird story, but that's not the main story. The main story is the way at Deadpool. This book felt like it ran on for way too long, so I'm going to give it a solid 5 out of 10, maybe pick it up. If you're reading the Deadpool run, pick it up, but this one felt like it ran on way too long. Speaking of, we got Despicable Deadpool, Volume 2, Bucket List. So this is Deadpool after Secret... Oh, what's that one called? The one by Nick Spencer. Secret Empire. This follows him after that, because at the beginning of Secret Empire, Deadpool killed Coulson, because evil Captain America told him to, but the good Captain America wouldn't have told him to, and Coulson was friends with people, and it was a big, complicated story. So Deadpool is now just trying to fight the whole world because he's essentially being like, we want to put you on arrest. He's like, no, I don't want to go under arrest. What'd I do? I took orders. I'm a soldier. So it involves him, going to the evil Steve, talking to him in his cell. Rogue comes at one point and they fight. He's still doing the missions for what's-his-face. Strife, because Deadpool's daughter would have died a while ago and Madcap injected her in Patience 0, but Strife gave him the cure, but he has to kill 3 people for Strife. So that's happening right now. Yeah. Then the final thing is this, these secret stories, like all these barcode. So Marvel did a little thing where they released variant covers, but they told a story. So it collects a bunch of the variant covers that tells one story. So if you want to find out that story, there you go. So all in all, this is like the second to last issue of Dugan's run, or second last volume, and it's really good because it shows how human Deadpool can be. So I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Probably pick it up if you see it. Just pick up Derek Dugan's run. Just maybe, save a little time for that wedding one. All right. Next up, we got SpiderMan Gamerverse, When Black Cat Strikes. So if you've played the DLC for the original Spider-Man, you know this story. Black Cat's coming. Black Cat comes to, not Tombstone, Hammerhead's there, and Hammerhead's, trying to collect, Magia chips to get some money. Black Cat's stealing them. Hammerhead may have her son kidnapped. If you've played the game, you know the story. But if you don't have the game or can't afford the DLC, then pick this up to read it, because it explains the story of the DLC, and it's pretty condensed too. It's a good story. It tells the backstory of Spider-Man and Black Cat in the Gamerverse, which wasn't really done in the game. So it's pretty good. I give it a solid 9 out of 10. If you've played the game, no real reason to read it. If you can't play the game, pick this up and read it. All right, next up, The Flash, United They Fall. So I thought this was kind of like a rebirth to the Rebirth storyline, after Paradox attacked or whatever. But no, this has, it's the giant size, if you go to Walmart and see the comics, they have, Flash, giant size, 100-page giant or whatever. So it essentially collects some of the stories from there. So he's fighting a bunch of people. There's this there's 2 stories in here essentially. It's the first series, which was 7 ones, and the second series, which was 5. So the first one, there's a secret villain. The second one, there's another secret villain. But they dropped the secret villain for the second one's name super early. and it's pretty evident who he is once you figure it out. But yeah. Also, I don't know if this is like a different timeline or the same one because Iris West is here, but she looks more like the Iris, like the new Wally West. You know, she is crap, what's the term I'm thinking of? She's darker skinned than Iris West as she is normally, but it doesn't. That's not the main continuity Iris West. I don't know if this is still in main continuity, if it reset at some point, or if it's in a different continuity. They don't fully explain that, so I have no idea. But all in all, if you just want to read some Flash, you don't want to get into like the continuity with like this rebirth run where you got to worry about the new forces and what caused the new forces and Gorilla Grodd and the Still Force, then just pick this up and read it. It's long, but it's a pretty good read. Gail Simone wrote it really well. So I give it a solid 9 out of 10. You know, pick it up. All right. Next up, we got Teen Titans Full Throttle. So this, after the original Teen Titans Rebirth run, which had like Aqualad, Beast Boy, Starfire, Raven, Kid Flash, and Robin, Damian Wayne on team, they thought that they should reboot it. And so the team now is Damian Wayne, Robin, Jin, Roundhouse, what's her name? Red Arrow, and Crush, Kid Flash. So Robin wants to essentially like, so Arkham's a spinning door, you know, people go in, people come out all the time. And Robin's like, I'm done with that. We need to stop that. So he makes the team to stop the people from constantly coming out. But he's also being hunted down by this guy called like The Other, who leaves like slash marks in a circle at each of his spots. It's kind of weird. So what happens is they're taking down like people connected to the others, like Black Mask, Gizmo. There was one assassin, and like it's all just trying to connect. It connects pretty well. I mean, I've read the 3 Teen Titans volumes. We're gonna review them next, but this is a good setup for it. Introduces the characters, makes you feel for them. So I give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a pretty good setup for it. Speaking of, here's Teen Titans Volume 2. Turn it up. So this one involves them breaking into the Batcave, and inside the Batcave, you know, they're talking and doing whatever, trying to discover some secrets about the Other, if Batman has any. The second story is Jason Todd and Damian fight. Then Jason Todd, Damian. Then there's this guy named Joystick, and he's like controlling people because he can like tap them to control them, and he takes control of Jin, and that's one. And the final thing is Mysteries of Love in Space. It's a Crush story about Crush like falling in love with this pro wrestler girl, and you'll see how that one works out. It's pretty good. This one's a pretty good little story line in here. It just connects this and the final one, but it felt like a good connector, so I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. You know, probably pick this up. This run's been really good so far. Speaking of, Volume 3, Seek and Destroy. So this one kind of delves into Year of the Villain, you know, with what's his face? Apex Lex, and he is taking control of this and that and making Proxima, making some villains superpowered, giving them new strengths. That's kind of what Flash Rogues Reloaded was that Year of the Villain-ish type stuff. But so this one involves Lobo coming down to Earth, and Lobo's like, hey, you're Crush, I was sent to kill the Teen Titans. And Crush is like, hey, you're my dad. He's like, no. So they fight, and Lobo loses, but then Lobo comes back with now the powers of Apex Lex, and he's controlling what's-her-face, Crush. But then it's come to light that there's a traitor in the team, like every single Teen Titans team. There's a traitor. So they have to figure out who the traitor is, and once the traitor's revealed, then they go and fight the Other, and you get to learn who he is. And if you want a picture of him without learning who he is, there's the picture of the Other. He's pretty cool looking. He's got a good design. The whole story ties into the Other, so he's kind of like this big guy pulling the strings. and it sets up for the next storyline, which I couldn't find, which involves Jin's backstory and getting that resolved. Where's the... Yeah, because you learn Jin's backstory in, I believe, Volume 2. So I'm guessing the next storyline ties in and finishes up Jin's storyline. So all in all, this is a good conclusion to the whole other storyline. So I give it a solid 9 out of 10. You know, this whole Teen Titans run's been pretty good so far. All right. Next up, Batman Beyond, Volume 2, Rise of the Demon. So this involves Ra's al Ghul perhaps coming back, because it seems like Ra's al Ghul's back, and he's training some more assassins to take out, what's her name? Cure? I don't know her exact name, just that lady right there, the one in the blue. They're trying to take her out, and Batman Beyond's, you know, now back with Bruce Wayne after the events of Volume 1, Escaping the Grave. So he's like, I want to spend some time. So then, like, Cure and Barbara getting beat up by the people. He's like, no, I'm not answering Bruce Wayne's call. And then Bruce Wayne's like, hey, look at this photo. And he's like, oh, I gotta go get to the police station. You know, kind of meaningless, but then he beats up all the villains, or all the assassins in the League of Assassins. But it turns out the suit he's wearing is like, has an AI to help. It was built when Bruce Wayne was aging down, like he was 60, 70, and he couldn't fight crime as often anymore. The suit essentially makes so he can't feel pain, but he still can like deal damage no matter what. So if like his spine's broken, it'll act like nothing's wrong, and if he gets knocked out, the suit's AI will kick in, and the suit's AI is like full on kill everyone, destructive, doesn't care about human life. So he fights Ra's al Ghul, goes to the Himalayas to go fight Ra's al Ghul, but is it Ra's al Ghul? You're gonna have to read to figure it out. And the final storyline is a Batwoman Beyond, but not the Batwoman Beyond that's in later ones. It's another Batwoman Beyond. I don't remember her name. I think it was Leslie Tompkins, maybe? I don't remember her exact name, sorry. But so it involves a story with her. So all in all, the Rise of the Demon one was kind of bland storyline, and the Batwoman Beyond was bland, so this whole book just felt kind of eh. So all in all, I give it like a 6 out of 10 maybe. Like, don't really read it. I mean, there's no real point. All right, next up, we got Runaways, Volume 3, The Good Die Young. So this is the end of the original Runaways. So it involves them going to fight their parents, who the traitor is, what happens there. So if you've read Runaways up to this point, which is, you know, 2 volumes, if not, like, do you just not read? So this is essentially the final issue of the original Runaways run, which then led into the second run, which had, like, you know, Victor Mancha and all the other people. So at this point, the team was only Alex, Chase, Gert, Molly, Nico, Caroline, and Old Lace. So I can't really say much about this book without spoiling it, but all in all, this book's really good. And like, the whole Runaways run is really good, but this book specifically is just such a great turning point for the book. So I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Like, really read this one. This one's so good, especially with the traitor. All right, up last for comics, we got Daredevil, Cruel and Unusual. I'm just gonna be honest, this book doesn't make much sense. Maybe if I read the Daredevils before it, well, if I can find the Daredevils before it in general, because this is an old book. So it involves like Daredevil, and then there's this guy that's convicted of killing kids, but then he's actually innocent, but he just says he's guilty, and it's just a long, complicated storyline. He says he's guilty, but he's not, and there's these guys running this thing out the dock that may have killed the children, and one of Daredevil's coworkers gets like attacked while trying to look for it. I mean, you got to read this book to understand it, but also just like don't read it. It's not that great. Just look up like Wikipedia, Daredevil Cruel and Unusual summary, and you could probably get in like 10 sentences. It'll be fine. So all in all, this book's not that great. which is kind of saddening because Daredevil's a great hero. So I give this book a solid 4 out of 10. Not that great. Don't really have to read it. All right. So that should be it. But we got one more book, and it's not a comic. It's Magic the Gathering Dissension, Ravnica Cycle Book 3. So this is the third book in the Ravnica cycle. I haven't read the first two, so I was a little lost reading it, but it's still a good book that follows the story of Koss, Gerard, Meek, Foon. Is it Foon? What's the one elf lady's name? I don't remember. Pivik, Tessa, what happens to the angels. It reveals a new villain, and it also has the last few guilds revealed, which are Azorius, Rakdos. I think those are the only two revealed in this set, but this was like the book to go alongside the set. So it involves Rakdos on the front here. He's a big player in the story. And you just got to read the book to understand it. It's a really great book. I enjoyed it a lot. So I give it a solid 10 out of 10. Read this book. It's really good. You don't even have to read the first 3. I didn't. I still got it. So that is it for What is Syris reading this week. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good 2 weeks. I'll see you then. Bye.